Alright, what's going on, guys? So, we're going to do a review of the KLX300SM. This is a 2021 model. So we're going to go over 5 pros and 5 cons on this thing. So first thing that I really enjoy about the KLX300 is going to be the 6-speed. It's a lot better than a 5-speed supermoto bike because you have that extra top gear, so that way you can get on the freeway and feel comfortable on it. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to talk about is the versatility of this bike. It's a glorified dirt bike with street tires on there, so you pretty much can go wherever you want to go. You can go on the main road, obviously, but you can also jump a curb. You can also go to a skate park and ride it because you got that clearance. You can also take it off some light off-roading. There's a bunch of different bikes out there, and I don't think that they can do all those things. This thing doesn't do it perfectly, but at least it can do it. The third thing I want to talk about is how quick it is off the line. So pretty much any vehicle in today's day and age, this thing will take it off the line. So the third thing that I want to talk about is how quick it is on the low end. I think that the gears are a little bit shorter on this thing because it sure is peppy. Pretty much any vehicle on the road in today's day and age, this thing has no problem lane filtering, getting up to the stoplight, and if they want to try to gun it, I'm going to be ahead of them right off the bat. What's also surprising is I went riding with one of my buddies. He's got a Honda Shadow. It's a 600cc, and on the lower end, I was actually pulling on him. So just because you have that higher cc doesn't necessarily mean that your bike is quicker. Depends on the gearing, depends on a lot of things, depends how fat you are. There's a lot of factors. So let's go ahead and move on to the fourth thing. On number 4, for the pros that I like about the KLX300, I would have to say is the weight. So the claimed wet weight on this bike is 304 pounds. Again, with the whole it weighing 300 pounds, just a little over 300 pounds, there's a lot of different bikes out there. This not weighing nearly as much as many other bikes that are out there. It's nimble, and you feel like you're in control of it. And you can pretty much toss it around however you want to toss it around, and it responds really nicely. So going on to number 5, that's final on the list of things that I like on the KLX300, is going to be the price. The price on these things, MSRP is at $61.99, so that ain't too bad of a price, seeing is that you get a street legal dirt bike and you can go have fun with. Now I do understand that there are plenty of other bikes out there that you can spend just a little bit more and you can have yourself a beautiful little sports bike and everything, but for my style of riding, and if you're watching this video, you might have that same style where you like not only staying on the main road. This thing offers it. So with that all said, I'm going to go ahead and grab a quick drink and we're going to move on to the things I don't like. Okay, so now that I got that drink, let's go ahead and get started on the first thing that I don't like about the KLX300. So the first thing that I want to mention is the power. I know that I mentioned how I like it, how I like the 6 speeds, how I like the low end stuff, but with that all being said, I wish that there was a little bit more. So this bike makes right under 25 horsepower, and the reason why I say right around is because Kawasaki hasn't released the numbers with their data. So the info that I'm getting is basically from forums and Facebook groups, and they have dyno sheets that are all claiming around that roughly being stock. So there is a good part to this con with the fuel controller, exhaust, and getting the KDX snorkel that pretty much opens this up a little bit more. You can squeeze out almost another horsepower on there. You'll increase a lot of your low end torque, which is kind of awesome because you're not pretty much at the ceiling right now. There's still some room in there. It just sucks that you got to spend all this extra money to go ahead and achieve that. Whereas there's other supermotos that are in the market, but they're a lot higher in price, like the Husqvarna 701. I would really like to kind of see one of these top 3 manufacturers like Yamaha, Kawasaki, and Honda to really kind of take a look at the supermoto market and give us something that's higher up there with the CC, somewhere like at 600, because there's a lot of people out there that are like me that would enjoy that and would actually go and purchase it. The next thing I really don't like, and this is probably like one of the biggest gripes for me, is the aftermarket scene. There really isn't much. There's probably like 5 things that are actually made for the KLX300SM, and pretty much everything else is like a universal fit, or it belongs to another bike and it might work on this bike with some trimming. So speaking of the aftermarket scene, it's pretty much hard to find clutch levers, which kind of sucks because how big my hands are. I pretty much got a 3-finger. If I try to do a 2-finger, my ring gets in the way, so I don't get a full engagement. Alright, so we're moving on to the next thing. Now this one's a personal one for me. I don't think that this really should be on the list, but it is anyway. So the key. Pretty much every time you want to go ahead and get the key in or out, you got to move this brake hose. I understand why the brake hose is here, but every time you go to get on your bike to ride, you pretty much got to move this out of the way, throw the key in. I just don't like where they put the location of it. I'm not too sure where else they could have put it. It's not that big of a problem because once it's in, it's there. It's more so just a little annoyance. But anyway, that made it on the list. So let's move on to number 4. The 4th thing on this list that I really don't like on the KLX300 is the gauge cluster. I feel like it's missing some key information. Now what it does have on there is it's got your speedo, it's got your RPMs on there, it's got a clock on there. But those are things that are pretty much standard on all bikes. So we're going to go ahead and look at the cluster itself, what information you're getting from there. Okay, so this is how you're welcomed when you go ahead and turn that key. You have your RPM gauge. I like the odometer reading, that's pretty awesome. You got your speedometer, you got your odometer, and your clock. Now what I would have liked seeing in place of the clock would have been like a gear indicator or even a fuel gauge, because the KLX is given a 2.008 gallon, so pretty much 2-gallon tank, and I'm always checking it, and I'm always having to fuel it up. So having a fuel gauge, even though it would pretty much go from full to quarter tank in a matter of miles, would be nice. Now the last thing on my list for the things that I don't like about the KLX300SM is the fuel range. So like I mentioned just a second ago, it has a little over a 2-gallon tank. Now the range for that full 2 gallons is about 100 miles. Now living where I live in BFN, Utah, pretty much everything is about 25 miles away before the fun starts. So that's a quarter tank already gone. I got to factor in that I have probably 50 miles left to play with, and I got to reserve that last 25 miles for my ride back. So that pretty much limits me to about 50 miles of riding exactly where I'm going to be at. Now that's not too much of a big issue because I can always carry a extra fuel storage, and then I can kind of get me topped off to the point where I can make it to a gas station. Or if I'm city riding, there's gas stations pretty much every block. But given where I live and that pretty much everything is about 25 miles away, that's a problem for me that I'll have to figure out a solution for, which I will. But another aspect that sucks with the whole fuel thing is I'm limited to that 100 miles. So every time my buddies on different kind of bikes, they want to go for a little road trip, I have to plan pretty much to see if there's a gas station nearby or along the way where I can refuel. And there's been already about like 6 different rides, again living in the desert, where I didn't have an option to stop at a gas station. So pretty much I had to tell them, I can't make it to this ride, guys, sorry. So those were the 5 things that I liked about the KLX and the 5 things that I didn't. With all those things said, would I buy one? The answer is yes, I would buy this bike. The cons are pretty much just gripes or grind my own gears kind of things. I can live with that. So if you guys like this video, I'd really appreciate a like. If you guys have any comments or questions about this bike, I've owned it for about 6 months now. Go ahead and put it in the comments below and I'll answer your question. I would really appreciate it if you guys could share this video. Maybe you have a friend that's looking for a supermoto. You can share it to them. Maybe they didn't know about the KLX. And after this video, they can make a decision on whether the Kawasaki would be their choice of motorcycle. We're going to go ahead and finish today's video. We'll see you guys in the next one. Until then, take it easy.